Well, I'm here with Jade Bartlett and uh, writer, director, producer of Miller's Girl. And looking at your IMDb, you started off working with Gavin O'Connor for two movies, got to work on the Doctor Strange movie. And we'll get into that because I'm kind of curious of what additional literary material is. But your debut writing, directing, to work with Martin Freeman and Jenna Ortega. You're just right out of the gate. You're just on fire. So uh, uh I guess let's get to your story because a lot of people kind of fumble their way to where you're currently at. And quite honestly, I'm pretty happy for you. So
Oh, thank you. It look my per my IMDb, it doesn't look like I've been working as much as I have. I've been writing in Hollywood for about 8 years. None of my movies have been made yet. This is the first screenplay I ever wrote, Miller's Girl is, and it's the first movie I have made, which feels kind of like very sweet in a way. Like that's a kind of sort of magical thing that happened. I was an actor for a while. I was living in New York City, bartending really more than I was acting, and I decided to write this as a play. It initially started as a play that I wrote for a friend of mine who is my muse. Her name is Julianne. And then I developed it as a play, and then I was on a TV show that Gavin O'Connor directed, that Anthony Tambakis wrote, Renee Zellweger produced. And I was like, hey, like I'm also a writer. Will you read my play? And they did. And they were like, you have to adapt this to screenplay. So I did. The casting associate who found me for that TV show, her name is Mary Margaret Kunze, who was a producer on this movie, who's also my best friend and my producing partner. So we met that way, and sort of she's been working with me since 2013 on the script. The first reading we ever did of the screenplay was with Renee Zellweger at her house. She very graciously hosted it, read Beatrice. She was amazing. And then it was on the blacklist in 2016. Point Grey picked it up, which was also really surprising because I'd only thought of them as a comedy, but they're so deep and generous and lovely, and they really just let me kind of do what I wanted. Um, and then we tried for a long time to get the movie made, and then the pandemic happened, and then a window opened up, and I got these insane actors, which is LOL, I still don't know how I got them, any of them, to be honest. And here we are today having this conversation.
well, when watching Miller's Girl, one of the movies that initially came to my head was David Mamet's Oleana. And
Mm.
but with that movie, it was kind of he's William H. Macy's character is just kind of teaching his student, and then the next act comes in and it's like, oh, he did a thing, but it's not explicit. So it's kind of like, is she lying? Is he telling the truth? That sort of thing. But in Miller's Girl, like Jenna Ortega's character is definitely being provocative towards him, but he's still the teacher. He's still explicitly doing the wrong thing. So there's no gray area as to who's right and who's wrong. What was kind of your thoughts of approaching this kind of subject matter?
Well, this is obviously a trope that's been done countless times, and it's, at least as far as I know, it's typically done by men. And so I think, I was really excited to kind of explore this trope and rework this trope through the female gaze. When I originally wrote it, Cairo Jonathan was sort of a perfect victim, and Cairo was a villain. And then Me Too happened, and I realized I didn't have one villain, I had two. And I use the word villain lightly because I don't think these characters can exhibit all the way any of those things. These characters actually don't fit a binary. None of the characters do. The whole court is out of order in this movie. And so as I was developing it into the screenplay during Me Too, and sort of I was on this big learning curve, Jonathan's journey and his inability to see himself as a villain was my journey with him as a writer, and not my inability to see what I had created originally. Beatrice, of course, now is the voice of reason and all of that. And then Kyra's journey kind of pretty much stayed the same. She remained who she was. I wanted that character to start out sort of on the, she's a ghost in this Southern Gothic. Cairo is the ghost in the story. And she lives in this big house, and the only literature and movies that she has access to are 18th, 19th, and 20th century literature and cinema, which is inherently problematic. It's way behind the curve. So she is ill-equipped to have any concept of what real life, how this works in real life. Jonathan feels marginalized. He is crippled by his hubris. And so they're two people two artists who feel unseen. They see each other as artists, and then they see each other as people. And then, of course, everything goes grossly misaligned. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I would say for any teachers listening to this or anyone in a power position, don't bang your students. I,
Don't do correct.
I think if you're in that position, you got to be the person. Like even if they're coming on to you, it's like you're in a you're supposed to be the adult in the room. Whether or
Well,
not they're coming on to you, you say no and bring someone
exactly.
else in if you need to.
Exactly. Like it is your responsibility in a power dynamic to accept if you are in the position of power, you have to accept your responsibility with that power. You can't waffle in that, you know? And Jonathan just cannot, he's incapable of accepting his power in that dynamic because he feels powerless in his life.
Yeah. Well, don't have much time here, but I could talk about this for hours, days even. But we do have a well, actually, before we get to that, the I mentioned the additional literary material. What does that mean?
I don't know what that means necessarily. I was the first writer in on Doctor Strange too. So I was on that project for a year. We had a whole draft of the script, and then the pandemic happened, and then there was a new, and then Sam Raimi came in and Michael Waldron, both who are incredible. But that, yeah, there's a different. I was the first writer in on Doctor Strange.
Okay. Well, how did that change from what we saw in the theater versus like what ideas you had? Or is Disney have the sights trained on you and like do not say anything?
I definitely can't say anything about it. But I think that what Sam and Michael did was so beautiful. And if you are versed in the comics, like they just did so many Easter eggs. Michael's a genius. Michael understands the multiverse in like this incredible way. Um, yeah, I think what they did was really beautiful. I'm really happy for them.
Yeah. And you get to work on road or you have worked on the new Roadhouse.
Yeah, I was brought in to do I was like a writer, not a first in writer. I did a rewrite on it for a little while and I haven't seen it yet. I don't even think it's out yet, is it?
No, I don't believe so.
No, it's not. Okay, I'm dying to see it because I love OG Roadhouse. OG
Oh,
Roadhouse.
same.
I mean the throat snatch is so good.
Well, I gotta say, your debut, uh, and this is your first script. That's just amazing. You knocked it out of the park. You got I can't imagine what your second and third script looks like because I imagine this is your first. This has to be the worst one, and if this is the worst one, we're in for a treat for whatever we have in the future.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
But we have a what's in the box segment, and in the box we have people put movies in that they think are underseen, or maybe
Mm,
something that's just real personal to you.
yeah.
That it's like, or maybe like this movie's really good and no one talks about it. So put it in the box, and every week we pull one out of the box to watch for the following week. What's a movie you would like to put in the box?
Ooh, what a great question. Ooh. I'm gonna say the 1993 Secret Garden with Maggie Smith.
Nice. All
That's the
right.
one.
Cool. Well, Jade, congratulations on all your success. And I believe Miller's Girl comes out in theaters on Friday, the 26th. And
Tomorrow.
I recommend everyone watch it, especially if you're in a position of power and decide you want to bang your kids. Definitely watch it and pay attention and take notes. But Jade, thank you very much for joining me.
Eric, thank you so much. It was really lovely to meet you.